All right, the weekend shadow tape has just updated, and what we are seeing in the private over-the-counter markets today, Saturday, February 28th, 2026, is a total validation of the data-driven model John A.G. has been providing you. While the mainstream financial headlines are frozen at the Friday close, the global physical market doesn't sleep. The shadow market is currently pricing silver at a level that suggests the official COMEX ticker is no longer a reliable metric for physical acquisition. We are witnessing the birth of a two-tiered pricing system, where the paper price is a controlled narrative, and the physical price is a reflection of a terminal shortage. The numbers coming out of the Eastern OTC desks this morning are screaming that the liquidity bridge has been dismantled. If you are waiting for the Sunday night open to see what silver is worth, you are already 12 hours behind the real money. The data hitting the private terminal regarding the COMEX registered levels remains the focal point of this systemic breakdown. As we analyzed earlier, the inventory has crashed to 72 million ounces, but the deeper tape reading reveals that the eligible to registered conversion rate has hit a dead stop. This means that the owners of the silver sitting in the vaults are refusing to make their metal available for sale at any price near the paper spot. John A.G. is looking at the internal warehouse reports, and the registered category is now functionally locked. When the March delivery window opened yesterday, the demand for physical settlement was so overwhelming that the exchange had to implement internal rationing protocols. This is the definition of a market that has snapped. The paper shorts are no longer just losing money, they are losing access to the collateral they need to survive. Look at the divergence in the global premiums as we analyze the weekend shadow pricing. In the Singapore and Dubai OTC markets, physical silver bars are changing hands at a $40 premium over the Friday paper close. This is not just volatility, this is a global no-offer scenario in the making. John A.G. has been tracking the arbitrage void for months, but today that void has turned into a total market decoupling. The East is effectively setting the floor for the world, and that floor is built on physical bars, not leveraged contracts. Every primary refiner in the Western world is currently receiving direct-to-mine offers that bypass the London and New York exchanges entirely. The West is losing its ability to discover price because it no longer possesses the underlying asset required to participate in the trade. The weekend freeze on large-scale digital transfers that we discussed is now being reported by multiple institutional desks as a strategic liquidity pause. John A.G. knows that in the world of high finance, pause is a euphemism for unbacked. When the silver collateral disappears, the entire pyramid of rehypothecated debt begins to shake. If the silver isn't there to back the lease agreements, the bullion banks face a solvency crisis that cannot be solved with a printing press. They are using the weekend silence to try and force cash settlements on the major physical longs. This is the bail-in maneuver happening in the dark. They are attempting to preserve the institutional structure by sacrificing the physical expectations of the market participants. This is why financial warfare education is so critical. You must understand that the digital screen is a promise, but only the metal in your hand is a payment. The industrial panic has moved from the procurement offices to the executive boardrooms this Saturday. John A.G. has primary sources inside the supply chain of a Tier 1 semiconductor firm reporting that they have authorized emergency premiums of up to 100% to secure raw silver grain for their Monday production cycle. They are not waiting for the COMEX to open because they know the COMEX has no silver for them. The green energy sector is currently facing a production cliff, where the cost of raw materials is rendering their forward contracts unprofitable. Tesla, Samsung, and the major solar manufacturers are now competing directly with the defense industry for the last remaining registered bars. This is the math of scarcity in its purest form. When a metal is indispensable for technology but unavailable in the market, the price discovery moves from a chart to a negotiation. The news from the Mexican mining sector continues to be the black swan of 2026. The deployment of military security at the mine sites isn't just for stability, it is for seizure control. Mexico is the world's leading producer, and they have realized that their silver is more valuable than the currency they are being paid for it. John A.G. is tracking the legislative shift toward strategic resource sovereignty. If Mexico formally stops the export of silver concentrate to the West, the global deficit expands from 67 million ounces to a level that is mathematically unresolvable. The miners are refusing to dig for fiat promises while the world is starving for physical atoms. The Western supply chain is currently hanging by a thread, and that thread is being cut by the reality of a $35 trillion debt wall that has finally collapsed. The interest on the U.S. national debt is now a mathematical wildfire consuming the entire global financial structure. At $35 trillion, the system can no longer afford to let the hard assets like gold and silver reach their natural market clearing price because it would signal the total end of the dollar's purchasing power. John A.G. sees the price suppression as a desperate act of national defense for a failing currency. But you cannot suppress a physical deficit forever. The registered inventory numbers don't care about the Fed's interest rate policy. The silver vaults are empty because the silver has been consumed or moved to jurisdictions that value physical reality. The bail-in is the final tool they have left to prevent a total bank run, and the weekend freeze is the first step in that process. Look at the gold to silver ratio as it compresses toward the 35-to-1 mark in the shadow markets today. This is a historical revaluation that has been delayed for 50 years by bank manipulation. John AG has shown you the data where silver acts as the rocket fuel during a systemic reset. While gold is the anchor, silver is the variable that captures the industrial panic and the monetary rush simultaneously. When the ratio reverts to its natural geological mean of 15-to-1, the price of silver will be in a territory that the mainstream media will call a flash crash upwards. The rubber band has snapped, and it is destroying every naked short algorithm that was programmed to believe the silver supply was infinite. The reality is that silver is the most undervalued strategic asset on the planet, and the value gap is closing today. Every emergency update I provide is rooted in the primary source data of the vaults and the delivery notices. The tape today is telling us that the plumbing of the Western exchanges is functionally blocked by a lack of collateral. We are seeing record-high fails to deliver being reported in the weekend settlement summaries. This means that even the institutional players who thought they were allocated are discovering that their metal has been double booked. John AG is telling you that the Wednesday blackout was the final warning for anyone holding digital silver. In a world of cyber polygon risks and digital IDs, the physical bar is the only financial record that is sovereign. If you don't hold it in your hand, you are merely an unsecured creditor in a system that is currently filing for mathematical bankruptcy. The face of shock you see in the data is the face of the bullion bank trader who realizes that the first notice day was not a fluke. It was the start of the final run on the bank. John AG sees this panic in the volume profile of the weekend OTC trades. There is a massive ask vacuum. People are bidding 135, 140, 150, but no one is selling physical bars. The owners of the silver are sitting tight. They know that the Western system is insolvent and that a force majeure event is the only logical conclusion for the COMEX. The hunter has become the prey, and the prey is out of silver to feed the paper monster. The shadow market is the only place where the truth is being told tonight, and the truth is that silver is unpriceable in fiat terms. The central banks of the BRICS nations are currently finalizing the digital ledger for a new physical-backed settlement unit. John AG is tracking the diplomatic flows, and silver is being positioned as a core industrial component of this new reserve asset. This is the end game for the dollar-denominated commodity trade. When the world's major manufacturers and energy producers decide to trade in a unit backed by the very metals they need to build their future, the demand for the dollar falls to zero. We are watching a hostile takeover of global price discovery by the people who actually produce the wealth. The paper changers are being evicted from the temple of finance, and they are leaving with nothing but digital codes that no longer command physical atoms. The no-hype philosophy is about looking at the mathematics of the drain. If you look at the Indian and Chinese physical import data from the last 24 hours, the demand for good delivery bars has increased by a factor of 10. The small man in the East has realized that the paper system is a trap. They are choosing the payment over the promise. John AG knows that there are 8 billion people on this planet and only a few 100 million ounces of deliverable silver left in the West. The door to safety is only wide enough for the 1% who acted before the force majeure was announced. When the masses realize the banks are empty and the registered vault is at zero, the rush into silver will be the greatest transfer of wealth in human history. You are not speculating. You are insuring your future against a systemic reset. Mexico's shift toward nationalization is the ultimate confirmation of the resource war. If the Mexican government decides that silver concentrate is too strategic to export to the US and Europe, the COMEX registered inventory becomes a historical relic. John AG is monitoring the diplomatic tension, and it is at a level not seen in a century. The West is realizing that it cannot run a high-tech military or a green economy on paper silver. They need the metal, but the metal is in the hands of the producers who are now demanding a seat at the table of global power. If you don't own the physical metal in your own possession, you are a spectator in a war that is being fought for your very survival. The shadow market pricing is the only signal you need to see that the exit is closing. The industrial hunger for silver in 2026 has reached a terminal point where the military-industrial complex is now in a direct bidding war with the tech sector for every available ounce. Every high-tech missile, every satellite, and every advanced communication system requires silver for its superior conductivity. John AG has confirmed that the strategic national stockpile in several Western nations is functionally empty this weekend. They have cannibalized their own reserves to maintain their current defense systems. This means there is no backstop. There is no government rescue coming when the retail public finally realizes the banks are empty. When the registered vaults hit zero, the market will move to no offer status. You won't be able to buy silver at any price because there will be none for sale. The John AG logo stands for Financial Warfare Education because we are in a war for the truth. The banks have the media, the politicians, and the printing presses, but we have the tape. We have the numbers. And most importantly, we have the physical. Today's weekend data is a total validation for everyone who ignored the hype and focused on the registered drain. We are on the right side of history, and the great wealth transfer is the event we are living through right now. The $35 trillion system is functionally dead. It just hasn't realized it yet because the digital screens are still pretending everything is normal. But the shadow market pricing proved that the illusion is fragile and the reset is inevitable. The physical world is finally demanding its due. As the London shadow markets prepare for the Sunday night open, the ask prices in the private dealer networks have jumped another 15% in the last 4 hours. John AG is seeing silver bars being traded for gold bars at a ratio of 35-1 in the private vaults of Singapore. The official price is becoming a joke that only the uninformed still believe. The real price is being set by the people who have the metal in their possession and are refusing to sell it for fiat currency. This is the market decoupling in its final stage. By the time the mainstream news tells you that silver is the new gold, there will be none left to buy. You are the early minority who saw the math, tracked the tape, and prepared for the exit to be closed. I want to highlight the psychological warfare being used against you today. The headlines are talking about market stability and technical recalibrations. This is a lie designed to keep you from pulling your money out of the failing banks. They want to trap you in the bail-in zone before the Monday morning open. John AG has seen this movie before. In every crisis, they tell the public that everything is fine right up until the moment they lock the vault doors. But the 2026 scenario is different because the physical shortage is so acute that they cannot hide it with paper contracts anymore. The truth is leaking out through the premiums, through the delivery failures, and through the empty registered vaults. Don't be a victim of their digital illusions tonight. The Wednesday blackout wasn't a glitch, it was a controlled freeze. They are preparing the world for a digital cage where they can control your wealth with the flip of a switch. John AG knows that silver is the ultimate freedom asset. You cannot turn off a physical silver bar with a keystroke. You cannot tax a transaction that happens in physical metal outside of their digital surveillance system. This is why they are so desperate to keep the price suppressed. They want you dependent on their digital lies, but the physical world is finally demanding its due. The producers are striking. The East is bidding 135, and the vaults are empty. The paper system is burning, and the fire is spreading to the very foundation of the global banking infrastructure. We are heading into a window of time that will define the next decade of your life. The March delivery month has begun, and the bullion banks are staring into an abyss of physical default. John AG predicts that we will see force majeure declared on several major commodity exchanges before the weekend is over. This will effectively end the futures market and move the world back to a physical-only trade model. The paper trap has officially snapped shut. If you are in the physical, you have a seat on the lifeboat. If you are in the paper, you are part of the ship. Stay sharp, watch the tape, and remember, the system has officially snapped under the weight of the silver shortage. The collateral is gone, and the truth is out. I'll leave you with this final thought for the afternoon update. The exit is closed. The vaults are empty. The bail-in is live. John AG will be back for the 8 p.m. closing tape update as the Eastern markets react to the shadow market pricing. We are living through history, and the data is the only light in the fog of financial warfare. Stay disciplined, watch the premiums in Shanghai, and for the love of everything, keep your eye on the physical. The paper market is a sinking ship, and the fire has reached the boiler room. It is time to step out of the illusion and into the reality of physical metal. This is the moment of truth. All right, I'm out.